between millennials and maybe a little bit more seasoned generation. Yeah, no, there's definitely, I mean, it depends on what dynamic you're thinking through. I think millennials in general, if you look at a lot of the studies, they have much more of a connection between their work and their vision. They desire a little bit more purpose. So I know my grandfather, I can't speak for anybody else in the room, so anything I'm about to say isn't anything indicating you guys. It's my grandfather versus the people I work with.
Well, give us some, I want you to give us some insights.
Yep.
Because you read about it, you hear about it, I don't know what the difference is myself.
Yep.
So I was curious of your end. What do you see?
Well, definitely. So you take my grandfather. He really didn't care what he did. He wanted a job. He wanted to provide for his family. And he was going to do that no matter what. He didn't necessarily have to be happy at work. He just wanted to make enough money, and that's fine. The shifts that we've seen in a lot of the millennial generation is that there's a much tighter connection between the passion that you want. You want to be able to put your hand to something that you can see impacting the world or impacting your community. And that's one of the reasons why we've tried to really make that connection. We obviously don't just hire millennials. We have a lot of more seasoned folks at the company too. And we actually, by the way, do a lot of studies to make sure that our diversity and equal employment is a big part of fairness. That's part of our other values, making sure that we're fair. So we do have a lot of millennials, but we don't just hire millennials, and we make sure that it's fair even for non-millennials too.
So you would say passion is the most important thing that you see in the difference?
Yeah, I mean, all generations have their strengths and weaknesses. I think millennials also don't mind working hard. There's a lot of critiques on millennials that they tend to be a little bit more entitled, that they have expectations out of life, that they kind of want life to be a little bit easier. I don't see that at all. I know there's other millennials in the room. I'm sure you guys would agree. If you're here at this meeting, you're probably a hard worker. So we have loved both and all generations. I think everybody kind of has their spot at even a company like ours.
So you do a lot of marketing, correct? Or
it's a lot more. So when you say marketing, we've actually split off. We had a whole marketing division, and we've split that off into a whole new marketing agency called 2-Ton. And the difference between marketing and where we really focus, marketing is about customer acquisition, and it's about telling a story to raise awareness, to acquire a new customer. We don't view ourselves as storytellers, so that's a marketing and advertising agency, which we used to do. We've focused over the last few years on really developing B2B, enterprise, customer retention and growth platforms, where it's less about the story you tell. You already have a marketing agency that helps with your brand positioning, your message mapping, your logo, and kind of the design. We help to identify ways in which your customers want to interact with your brand to grow. So it might be something like for HSBC, we helped redevelop their credit card onboarding platform. That very much has an implication to their customers, and it tells the story of HSBC, but we didn't help HSBC with their marketing and advertising. We're assuming they already have a customer at the point of knowing who HSBC is, and now they want to take that customer and grow that lifetime value. So that's a lot more where we focus on it. And then the underlying technology, and then especially the data, to understand what's going to grow that engagement, how is it measured, and how do you build personalized experiences that can help engage today's modern consumer.
Any questions from the audience? Yeah.
Going back to the point we were just talking about getting younger people to help create a vibrant South Florida economy, right? So, and it's something that I hear people talk about in the life sciences and finance and technology. Do you think that the South Florida is approaching the tipping point where people are coming here to have careers like that, or do you still think it's got a way?
No, I would say absolutely approaching the tipping point. I think there's still a challenge, particularly around data scientists, people who have deep expertise in artificial intelligence. There's still a challenge. Every company, these big companies that we work with, they're all looking for those skills. It's interesting though, because they're also looking at Levitas as a much easier way to find those skills, because we have the culture that those types of people really want. So it's a little bit of a challenge to go work brand side at a single company working with the same data every day And what a lot of these big brands find is that we can attract, at Levitas, we can attract the talent they need. So I definitely think we're at a tipping point. I think there's still a struggle with certain talent though. But I know there's a lot of great organizations that are trying to work on it, and our population's growing, and in fact, we probably have, I don't know offhand, probably at least 5 to 10 folks that we've pulled in from bigger markets, Chicago or LA, that have moved specifically to work at Levitas. And we sell the lifestyle of South Florida all the time, right? I still don't know why anybody wants to live in San Francisco, Silicon Valley. And I'm in California. I was born in California, so I can say that. But
Well, I'll just say one more thing, because there's more jobs there. That's the issue, right?
Yep.
Because I was talking with some of that generation, and they loved it, right? They loved what they were doing on the weekends. They loved, being here, but things weren't going so well at job number one, and then they were thinking about where to get job number two.
Yeah.
And there was a 20-something person to go back to New York to
Yeah.
just get back in the professional mix.
yeah, and I think there's a lot of companies that are going to move to Florida. And again, we're seeing actually a lot more collaboration between education, government, and private businesses. There's a lot of organizations here trying to help develop that. So I certainly feel, I think you said it perfect, we're at the tipping point. We're not there yet, but it seems like that tipping point is pretty near.
So, from some things I've read, some studies I've read, just overall observation, tell me if this is kind of what you do. I feel like for the first time ever, maybe the consumer has more control over businesses. Before, like Macy's, right? You have to buy this here. For the first time ever, the consumer determines where they make the shopping process, and they determine where their purchases will be made. And the industry I worked in before, what I'm in now, we transitioned to try to meet that demand of a transparent, full disclosure sales process to the consumer, because that's what people expect now, because they can get all the information everywhere. Is that something, what you do, you help companies transition to this new consumer and adapt?
100%. That's exactly those are the difficult problems that I was referencing. So there has been a wholesale shift that consumers absolutely have the power. As you mentioned, information is ubiquitous. You can you can walk into Macy's, look at a product, look online and be like, I can get it $2 cheaper on Amazon, one click, check out, walk out. And brick and mortar are just struggling. And even other online retailers are just struggling, obviously, with the globalization of the economy. We can buy stuff from China and they can buy stuff from us. And so yeah, it's definitely a big challenge. And that's what we do. And the way that we solve that is really helping to design customer experiences and make them personalized. And the only way to do that is through having data, so that when somebody comes to your website, you have all the data, you look at their cookie data, you can use lookalike data, and you can actually design a personal experience to know, okay, this time of day, this person is coming from this IP address, which is this demographic. Likely based on their clicks, here's where they're probably looking, and now we're gonna revamp the future journey through our company through that data. So it's that personalized customer experience that is the next frontier of what every brand is gonna need. Again, because consumers, they don't respond to ads. At least the outbound, blast to 1 million people ads. So the high volume, low customized ad is just dying. And I think we can all agree, because I don't respond to ads like that.
Michael?
Quick question on customers, because we talked about customers. I did a consult for Continental Airlines about 15 years ago, and I said, you have to learn to fire your customer. Harry Selfish, who started the whole theory about the customer is always right, isn't right all the time. I told Gordon Bethune, I said, you're going to give a guy a first class round trip ticket to Paris because you can get a bag of peanuts on the last flight, and your customer service people know that he's 100% wrong. And if you treat your customer better than the people who work for you, who show up and give you 110% every day, you're going to get worse customer service than you would. So my question to you is, have you ever had the opportunity where you actually had to fire a customer? And how did you handle it, and what do you think about that?
Yeah, it's a great question. The answer is yes. It's probably been a handful of occasions, because I don't know if you're going to ask about mistakes, but I can be honest, some of the mistakes we've made, because we focus so much on growth and because we focus so much on adapting our offerings around what customers want, that the net result a lot of times is to get a little bit out ahead of your skis, as you're kind of insinuating, where you get a customer who probably isn't a good fit for your company, either based on what they need and you're not quite as good at it as they need you to be, or they're just taking them. They're tough to work with. And we probably haven't responded as quickly as we should have. Being a small business, you're looking at cash flow, you want to make payroll, the revenue coming in is great.
Seattle tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And so it's hard to make those decisions in the moment. And hindsight's 20/20, but I know very specifically which clients we should have let go sooner. And then there were those that we had the candid conversation with the client and just said, hey, here's what we look for in our clients. Here's what we try to do to make sure that our team is happy. And by the way, that ethos, that's the foundation of which we talk to our customers by. We want to have happy clients, but we want to have a happy team also, because when our team is happy, they do great work. Here's what you're doing, client, to hurt our happiness. Do you think we can work on these things? And if not, let's just part ways, and we'll do it amicably, and we'll even invest more money to wind it down to make sure that you're not left high and dry, but let's go our own separate ways. And that's definitely happened, and it's part of running a healthy agency, because we're not the best fit for every company out there. And we have to be able to be realistic about that. And then the insinuation on the other part of your question is you do prioritize your team in a lot of cases. Because again, happy people are going to do better work. So it's hard being a small business, but we've definitely had to do that over the years. And then when you hit scale, when you're not living paycheck to paycheck as a company, it becomes a lot easier. You can really sit down and we have a whole criteria for, we spend a lot of time vetting our opportunities to know we only have limited resources, and we want to have a healthy environment. Is this company going to be a good fit for what we need? And we pass on a lot more work now than ever before. And we don't have to really fire our clients so much, because we're not getting in with clients at the front end that we can kind of tell aren't going to be a good fit.
You do your due diligence.
Yeah. Yeah, we just like we have a rigorous interview process. We spend a lot of time with clients, because remember, we're not selling a widget. So we don't have a sales meeting and then they're signing a contract. We're getting involved and doing full, deep discoveries, talking about their business model, their customers, their goals, business value of what we're doing. We get to know their team. So it's a little bit easier for us, because we have to go pretty deep before we're sending them a contract to sign. And that usually gives us a good opportunity to weigh if it's going to be a good fit for us.
Your company is based on value. Where did that come from? It just seems that most businesses hire people now to teach culture and values, and all that soft side, but I was trying to do it.
Yeah, it's hard.
So where did that all come from?
It definitely wasn't because Chris or myself or some business geniuses. I think a lot of the early lessons, the story with cancer, that had a big impact on me, where I started to think about what was important. And I know that I want to work with people who share my values. So both Chris and I, and Chris just, one of his other strengths is he reads people really well. He usually gets kind of a gut feeling after talking with somebody. And so as him and I were hiring, it was a really good combination, because I could assess their technical skills and make sure that we had a real process-oriented interview, and he could kind of give me the gut feel, the gut reaction on who this person was. And it was more organic. We didn't sit down on day one and say, all right, we're going to hire on values, and here's our values, and this is our process. It just grew. And we, similar, this is going to be a bad connection because we're not at all like Google, but like Google has a very feedback-oriented, iterative way to grow, and that's much more kind of how we've grown the company. We try things, and then we talk about it, and then we change things. And we're not afraid to take action. So sometimes that results in lost money, or frustrated team, or taking on a client that we shouldn't have because we thought we could do it well, and then it was a little bit of a bobble. But it also allows us to iterate and get better through open communication. And that's really how the values have developed over the last 11 years, very organically. In fact, we didn't even document our values until 2 years ago. There was no document, it was just kind of understood. But it drove the decisions that we made.
I'm on the board of directors of the South Florida Fair, and they hired you guys to revamp their whole image for the fair. So it tells me that you still believe in traditional marketing, radio, TV, things like that. Well, what was it that you did that made you change the image? I don't know if you've seen the television commercial for the fair. It used to be people eating junk food and riding rides. It's totally different. So could you give us a little background and give us insight of how you changed and what your thought process was?
Yeah, and you mean how the company changed or how we approached South Florida?
How
Fair?
you changed the fair's image
Yep.
via commercial?
Yeah, right off the bat, that's what I mean when I say we hired smarter people than me. So that would be like our creative team, but because Chris had such a good design eye, he knows what good looks like, he's very creative, got good ideas. Very early on, it's always been a distinctive of our company that, to your point, we're highly creative, can design beautiful experiences, and we've hired around that. So when it came to the fair, we put our team in front of the fair and they do a deep dive discovery to understand what's the fair's customer, what are the goals, what do we need to do. And again, back to our culture, these people love what they do. So they meet with the fair to understand what the fair wants, and then they're sitting there on their weekends and in the shower at night, and they'll show up on Monday and say, hey, I was thinking about this weekend, what do you guys think about this idea? And 99% of the ideas get thrown on the floor, but then the one good idea that anybody on the team had, that's what everybody latches onto and gets behind. And again, back to culture, we don't have a culture where there's a lot of politics, a lot of competition. So when a good idea comes from the most junior person in the room, there's not oh yeah, that guy doesn't know what he's talking about. So for South Florida Fair, we got a team of really smart, creative folks who understood what the fair needed, and they came up with ideas and worked collaboratively with the team at South Florida Fair. And we're pretty proud of the outcome, and I know you guys are happy too.
Yeah, if you ever see it next to you, it's totally different.
Yeah.
It's now a theme each year.
Yep.
It's some character.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, thank you. We got to go.
Okay.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
And as a token of appreciation, we have a book for you by Zig Ziglar, Inspiration, 365 Days a Year. One of the quotes in there from Zig Ziglar that I want to read to you is, when you clearly understand that success is a process, not an event, you are encouraged to follow the right process to create the success you are capable of having. And I think that's you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.